I think I didn't do anything wrong. I just wanted to feel wanted again, so I said yes to my ex, just to see if my husband would even notice. But now, sitting here with these divorce papers in my hand, I realize he noticed everything. He didn't yell or beg. He just walked out and let the law speak for him. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. The kitchen light flickered as I stood at the sink, washing the same plate for the third time. Matt sat at the table behind me, laptop open, fingers clicking away at his endless spreadsheets. Sophie had been in bed for an hour, and this was supposed to be our time, the sacred after 8 when couples reconnect. "Matt," I said, turning around with the dish towel still in my hands. "Can we talk?" He mumbled, not looking up from his screen. I said, "Can we talk?" His eyes flicked toward me for half a second. "About what, Leo?" "About us. About how you never seem to see me anymore." I sat down across from him, but he kept typing. "When's the last time you told me I looked nice? Or asked about my day?" "You look nice," he said automatically, still focused on his work. "Don't." I slammed my hand on the table, making his coffee mug jump. "Don't just say it because I asked." Finally, he looked at me, really looked, but his expression was tired, not loving. "Leo, I've had 12-hour days all week. The Peterson account is a nightmare, and I just need to finish this." "You always need to finish something." I could feel my voice getting sharper. "I'm your wife, not a roommate who splits the bills." He closed the laptop with a sigh. "What do you want me to say?" "I want you to want to talk to me. I want you to notice when I'm upset. I trailed off, because what I really wanted was to feel the way I used to feel when Andre would text me back in college, like I was the most important thing in someone's world. My phone buzzed on the counter. Matt's eyes didn't even flicker toward it. "I'm going to bed," he said, standing up. "We can talk tomorrow if you want." After he left, I grabbed my phone. The message was from Andre Cooper, my ex from college who'd found me on Facebook last month. We'd been exchanging harmless messages about old times, mutual friends, nothing serious. "Miss talking to you. Want to meet tomorrow?" I stared at the text, my heart doing something it hadn't done in months when Matt was around. Someone wanted to see me. Someone missed talking to me. I typed back, "Yes." Then I deleted the entire message thread before Matt could see it, just like I'd been doing for weeks. The coffee house on 5th Street was busy enough that I could blend in, but quiet enough that Andre and I could actually talk. I'd told Matt I had to work late. Dr. Sharp needed help with inventory. It wasn't technically a lie. She had mentioned needing help. I just wasn't actually doing it. Andre looked good, better than good. He'd filled out since college, traded his scruffy beard for something more refined. When he smiled at me from across the cafe, I felt something I'd forgotten existed. The flutter of being chosen. "Leo Vane," he said as I approached his table. "Still beautiful as ever?" When was the last time Matt had called me beautiful? I couldn't remember. "You're not so bad yourself, Cooper." I slid into the seat across from him, suddenly conscious of my dental office scrubs. I should have changed. "So tell me," Andre leaned forward, "how's married life treating you?" The question hit wrong. "It's fine. Good. Matt's a good man. But nothing. We're happy." My phone buzzed, Matt texting. I ignored it. Andre studied my face. "You know, I always wondered what would have happened if we hadn't broken up senior year." "Andre, I'm not saying anything inappropriate, just wondering." He reached across the table and touched my hand. "You seem different. Sadder." My phone buzzed again, then again. "Popular tonight," Andre said, nodding toward my phone. "Just work stuff." I turned the phone face down. Tell me about your job. Still doing graphic design? We talked for 2 hours. Andre listened to every word, laughed at my stories about difficult patients, asked follow-up questions. When I mentioned feeling invisible sometimes, he said, "That's impossible. You light up every room you walk into." Matt had never said anything like that. Not once. By the time I got home, Matt was already in bed, reading. "How was inventory?" he asked, without looking up from his book. "Long, boring." I started changing into my pajamas, back turned to him. "How was your evening?" "I texted you a few times. Didn't hear back." My stomach tightened. "Sorry, I was busy. What did you need?" "Nothing important. Just wanted to see how you were doing." The irony wasn't lost on me. He'd finally tried to reach out, and I'd been with another man, soaking up the attention I'd been begging him for. "I'm tired," I said, climbing into bed. "Can we talk tomorrow?" He looked at me then, something unreadable in his expression. "Sure, Leo. Tomorrow." The next morning at work, Dr. Sharp called me into her office. "Leo, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be honest with me." My mouth went dry. "Of course." "There are rumors going around that you've been meeting someone outside of work, someone who's not your husband." She leaned back in her chair, studying me. "Now, what you do on your personal time is your business, but if it's affecting your work or the reputation of this practice, Dr. Sharp, I would never." "I'm not accusing you of anything. I'm just saying, be careful. This is a small town, and people talk." I nodded, forcing a smile, but my hands were shaking as I hid my phone in my desk drawer. Andre had texted again. "Last night was perfect. When can I see you again?" I should have said never. I should have deleted his number right then. Instead, I wrote back, "Soon." Helen Vane's dining room always made me feel like I was being judged, from the perfectly pressed tablecloth to the family photos that somehow never included me, even after 8 years of marriage. Sunday dinner at Matt's mother's house was supposed to be about family unity, but it felt more like a performance review where I was always failing. "Leo, dear, you look tired," Helen said as she set down the roast, her voice dripping with false concern. "Are you getting enough rest?" "I'm fine, Helen, just busy at work." I forced a smile and reached for Matt's hand under the table. He let me take it, but didn't squeeze back. "Speaking of work," Carla said from across the table, "you've been putting in a lot of extra hours lately. Paul and I barely see you anymore." My sister meant well, but her timing was terrible. "Dr. Sharp has been keeping us all busy. You know how it is." "Actually, I don't," Helen said, cutting her meat with surgical precision. "In my day, wives made sure they were home for their families." "Helen," Matt said quietly, "Leo works hard." It was the first time he'd defended me in weeks, and I felt a rush of gratitude mixed with guilt. If only he knew where I'd really been spending those extra hours. "Of course she does," Helen replied, but her tone suggested otherwise. "I just think it's important to prioritize. Sophie, sweetheart, tell Grandma about school." Sophie, who'd been picking at her food, looked up with those big eyes that were so much like Matt's. "Mommy, why are you always on your phone?" The table went quiet. Even Paul, who usually tried to stay neutral, looked uncomfortable. "I'm not always on my phone, honey," I said, but even as I said it, I could feel the device buzzing in my purse. "Yes, you are," Sophie insisted with the brutal honesty of an 8-year-old. "Even when we're watching movies, you're texting someone." "Sophie," Matt said gently, "eat your vegetables." But the damage was done. Helen's eyebrows had risen to her hairline, and Carla was giving me a look I couldn't quite interpret. "Well," I said, standing up abruptly, "I should check on dessert." In the kitchen, I finally looked at my phone. Andre had sent 3 messages and a photo of himself at some bar downtown. "Wish you were here," the last message read. "Leo?" Carla had followed me into the kitchen. "Everything okay?" "Fine. Why wouldn't it be? You seem, I don't know, different lately, distracted. She lowered her voice. Are you and Matt having problems? The question hung in the air between us. I could have told her the truth, that Matt and I barely talked anymore, that I felt invisible in my own marriage, that I'd been meeting my ex-boyfriend for coffee and feeling more alive than I had in years. Instead, I said, "We're fine. Matt's just been working a lot." "And you've been working a lot too," she said carefully. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing, I just, if you ever need to talk, you know I'm here, right?" I nodded, but I was already thinking about Andre's messages, about how he made me feel seen and wanted. Carla meant well, but she wouldn't understand. She and Paul still acted like newlyweds after 7 years. When we returned to the dining room, the conversation had moved on to Sophie's upcoming school play, but I could feel Helen's eyes on me throughout dessert. As we were getting ready to leave, she pulled me aside. "Leo, I hope you know that Matt is a good man. He deserves loyalty." "Of course he does. What are you implying?" "I'm not implying anything. I'm stating a fact. He's been working extra hours to provide for his family, and he comes home to a wife who's never present, even when she's in the room. That's not fair, isn't it?" Helen's voice was sharp now. "When's the last time you asked him about his day? When's the last time you put that phone down and actually listened to your daughter?" I wanted to argue, to defend myself, but her words hit too close to home. Instead, I said, "I don't have to listen to this," and walked away. In the car, Matt was quiet. Sophie fell asleep in the back seat, and the silence stretched between us like a chasm. "Your mother hates me," I said finally. "She doesn't hate you. She thinks I'm a terrible wife and mother." Matt was quiet for so long, I thought he wasn't going to respond. Then he said, "Are you happy, Leo?" The question caught me off guard. "What do you mean?" "I mean, are you happy? With us? With this life?" I should have said yes. I should have reached over and taken his hand and told him that I loved him, that we could work through whatever was happening between us. Instead, I said, "I don't know." That night, after Matt had gone to bed, I sat in the kitchen with my phone, scrolling through Andre's messages. He made me laugh. He made me feel interesting and desirable and worth pursuing. I typed, "I wish I were there too." Then I deleted it and wrote, "We need to stop meeting." But I didn't send that one either. Instead, I just sat there, staring at the blank message box, knowing I was standing at a crossroads and not sure which path would destroy me faster. The dental office felt different that morning, like everyone was watching me. Dr. Sharp's assistant kept glancing my way during the staff meeting, and I caught 2 hygienists whispering by the water cooler, their conversation stopping abruptly when I walked by. I tried to focus on work, but my phone kept buzzing with messages from Andre. He'd been more persistent since our last coffee date, sending good morning texts and photos of things that reminded him of me. Each message was a small thrill, a reminder that someone found me worth pursuing. "Leo," Dr. Sharp's voice cut through my thoughts. "My office, now." My stomach dropped as I followed her down the hallway. She closed the door behind us and gestured for me to sit. "We need to talk," she said, settling behind her desk. "I've been hearing things." "What kind of things?" "That you've been seen around town with a man who isn't your husband, multiple times, in intimate settings." The word intimate hung in the air like an accusation. "Dr. Sharp, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Have you or have you not been meeting with someone inappropriately?" I felt trapped, caught between the truth and the lie I'd been telling myself. "I've had coffee with an old friend. That's hardly inappropriate." "An old friend you've been texting during work hours? An old friend you lied about when you said you were working late?" My face burned. "How did you—" "Leo, this is a professional environment. Your personal drama is affecting your work and the reputation of this practice. I'm putting you on notice. One more incident, and we'll need to discuss your future here. I nodded, unable to speak, and stumbled back to my desk. My hands were shaking as I tried to input patient information, but all I could think about was how everything was spiraling out of control. My phone buzzed again. Andre. Can't stop thinking about yesterday. You're incredible. Yesterday. We'd met at the coffee house again, and this time he'd walked me to my car. For a moment, standing there in the parking lot, I thought he might kiss me. Part of me wanted him to. I deleted the message and tried to focus on work, but the damage was done. By lunch, I was convinced everyone knew. By closing time, I was a wreck. Matt was already home when I got there, sitting at the kitchen table with papers spread in front of him. Sophie was at a friend's house, so it was just us. How was work? He asked without looking up. Fine. I dropped my purse on the counter, and several receipts spilled out. Matt's eyes flicked toward them, then back to his papers. Leo, what are these? My blood went cold. The receipts were from the coffee house, dated and timed, a perfect record of my meetings with Andre. What are what? He stood up and walked over, gathering the receipts. These are from Grind Coffee, multiple times over the past few weeks, during hours when you said you were working late. I could have told the truth then. I could have explained about feeling lonely and neglected, about Andre making me feel seen again. Instead, I went on the offensive. Are you seriously going through my receipts now? What is this, an interrogation? I'm asking a simple question. Why are you buying coffee when you're supposed to be at work? Maybe because I needed caffeine to get through those long nights you never asked about. Maybe because I was grabbing coffee for the staff. Maybe because it's none of your business what I spend my own money on. Matt stared at me, and something in his expression shifted. Your own money? Our money, whatever. The point is, you're acting paranoid. Am I? He held up one of the receipts. This one's for 2 drinks, Leo. 2 specialty drinks and 2 pastries. That's not a quick caffeine fix. My heart was pounding. So who were you with? The question hung between us like a blade. I could feel everything balanced on the edge of my answer. A co-worker, I said. Sarah was having a rough day, so I bought her coffee. Sarah doesn't work late shifts. How would you know? You never ask about my job. I'm asking now. Too little, too late, Matt. You can't ignore me for months, and then suddenly play the concerned husband when it's convenient for you. He was quiet for a long moment, studying the receipts. Then he looked at me with eyes I'd never seen before. Cold, calculating. You're lying to me. I'm not. You are. I can see it in your face. You're lying, and you're angry at me for catching you. I felt cornered, desperate. You want to know the truth? Fine. Yes, I had coffee with someone. An old friend who actually listens when I talk, who makes me feel like I matter. Because my own husband certainly doesn't. An old friend? Andre Cooper, from college. And before you start making accusations, it was just coffee. Just conversation. Something I can't seem to get at home. Matt's face went white. Andre Cooper. Your ex-boyfriend, Andre Cooper. Yes, but it's not what you think. What I think is that my wife has been lying to me for weeks, sneaking around with her ex-boyfriend, and then gaslighting me when I ask simple questions about it. I wasn't gaslighting. What would you call it, Leo? You made me feel crazy for being suspicious. You blamed me for your behavior. You lied to my face and then got angry when I didn't believe the lie. I wanted to argue, but the words wouldn't come. Because he was right, and we both knew it. I'm sleeping on the couch tonight, he said quietly. We'll talk more tomorrow when I've had time to think. Matt, please. But he was already walking away, leaving me alone in the kitchen with the receipts scattered on the counter like evidence of my guilt. That night, I lay in our empty bed, staring at the ceiling and listening to Matt moving around downstairs. My phone sat silent on the nightstand. No messages from Andre, no late-night validation to ease the ache in my chest. For the first time in weeks, I felt truly alone. I knew something had changed the moment I walked into the kitchen the next morning. Matt was already dressed for work, standing by the coffee maker with his back to me. His posture was different, straighter, more resolved. "Morning," I said tentatively. He turned around and his face was a mask I didn't recognize. Polite, but distant, like I was a stranger he was forced to interact with. "Morning. There's coffee if you want it." "Matt, about last night." "I don't want to discuss it right now, Leo. I need to get to work." He moved past me toward the door, and I caught his arm. "Please, can't we talk about this?" "We will, but not now." After he left, I sat at the kitchen table, staring at my phone. Andre had sent a message an hour ago. "Everything okay? You seemed off yesterday." I started to type a response, then deleted it, then started again. Finally, I wrote, "My husband found out about our coffee dates. Maybe we should cool it for a while." His response came immediately. "Probably for the best. This was getting complicated anyway." I stared at the message, feeling something cold settle in my stomach. Getting complicated. Like I was a problem to be solved, not a person worth fighting for. The day passed in a haze of routine appointments and forced smiles. Dr. Sharp kept her distance, and I caught the other staff members exchanging glances when they thought I wasn't looking. The walls were closing in from all directions. When I got home, Matt's car wasn't in the driveway. Sophie was at Carla's house. Something about a sleepover that I'd apparently forgotten to put on my calendar. The house felt eerily quiet. I found Matt's laptop still on the kitchen table, closed, but not put away. He never left it out like that. Without thinking, I opened it and tried to log in. Password protected, of course, but I knew his usual combinations. His email was open, and the first message in his inbox made my blood freeze. Consultation appointment, divorce and custody proceedings. I clicked on it with trembling fingers. "Mr. Vane, thank you for scheduling a consultation with our firm. As discussed, we specialize in family law with particular expertise in divorce proceedings involving infidelity and child custody arrangements. Please bring all relevant documentation to your appointment on Friday at 2 p.m. The email was dated 3 days ago. 3 days ago, while I was still telling myself that my meetings with Andre were harmless, Matt had already been planning his exit strategy. I scrolled through his other emails, finding correspondence with a law firm, a real estate agent, and even a family therapist who specialized in helping children cope with divorce. My phone rang, making me jump. Carla's name flashed on the screen. "Hey, is everything okay?" she said when I answered. "Sophie seems really anxious tonight. She keeps asking if you and Matt are getting divorced." "What? Why would she ask that?" "She said you and Matt have been fighting a lot, and that you're always on your phone, and that Matt's been sleeping on the couch." I closed my eyes. "We're just going through a rough patch." "Leo, what's really going on? And don't say nothing because I can hear it in your voice." For a moment I considered telling her everything. About Andre, about the lies, about the divorce papers I'd just discovered. But the words stuck in my throat. "I think Matt's having some kind of midlife crisis," I said instead. "He's been acting paranoid, accusing me of things that aren't true." "What kind of things?" "He thinks I'm having an affair." The silence on the other end of the line stretched too long. "Carla? Are you?" "What kind of question is that?" "The kind a sister asks when she's worried about you. Leo, I've been covering for you for weeks. Telling Matt you were with me when you weren't. I thought you were just going through something, but if you're actually—" "I'm not having an affair," I said quickly. "I had coffee with an old friend a few times. That's it." "An old friend?" "Andre Cooper, from college." Another long silence. "Leo, that's not just any old friend. That's your ex-boyfriend, the one you were obsessed with senior year." "It wasn't like that. It was just coffee." Just coffee doesn't require lying to your husband and asking your sister to provide alibis. I felt the walls closing in. Whose side are you on here? I'm on Sophie's side. And right now, she needs her parents to figure their shit out before she gets caught in the crossfire. After we hung up, I sat in the empty house, surrounded by the evidence of my crumbling life. Matt's laptop still open to emails about divorce proceedings, my phone full of deleted message threads with Andre, receipts scattered across the counter like breadcrumbs leading back to my betrayal. When Matt finally came home, it was after 10 o'clock. He walked into the kitchen, saw his laptop open, and looked at me with something that might have been disappointment or might have been relief. So you know, he said. Matt, please, we can work through this. Can we, Leo? Can we work through the lying, the sneaking around, the gaslighting? It was just coffee. Stop. His voice was quiet but firm. Just stop. I know about Andre. I know about the messages. I know about the lies you told Carla, the excuses you made at work, the way you've been rewriting history to make me the villain in your story. I stared at him, realizing that while I'd been playing games, he'd been gathering evidence. I'm staying at my mother's tonight, he said. My lawyer will be in touch. Your lawyer? Matt, this is insane. We can go to counseling. I tried counseling, Leo. I suggested it 6 months ago, remember? You said we didn't need it, that I was being dramatic. He was right. I had said that. What about Sophie? Sophie will be fine. Better than fine, actually, once she's not living in a house full of lies and tension. He walked toward the stairs, then paused. For what it's worth, Leo, I really did love you. I loved you enough to try to save this marriage, even when you'd already given up on it. But I won't love you enough to let you destroy our daughter's sense of security. After he left, I sat alone in the kitchen, staring at the divorce consultation email on his laptop screen. This was really happening. My marriage was over, and somehow I was the last one to know. The courthouse smelled like industrial cleaner and broken dreams. I sat in the hallway outside the family court, watching Matt talk quietly with his lawyer, a sharp woman in a navy suit who looked like she'd never lost a case. He looked different, too. Calmer somehow, like he'd finally stopped carrying a weight he'd been shouldering for months. Helen sat beside him, her hand on his arm, whispering something that made him nod. Sophie was at school, thankfully spared from witnessing this final unraveling. My own lawyer, a public defender who looked barely out of law school, shuffled through papers with the desperate energy of someone trying to make sense of an impossible case. Mrs. Vane, he said for the third time, are you sure you don't want to accept their settlement offer? The custody arrangement is generous, considering what? Considering the evidence they have. The evidence. Matt had been thorough. I'd give him that. Phone records showing the frequency of my calls and texts with Andre. Credit card statements highlighting every coffee date I'd tried to hide. Screenshots of social media messages I thought I'd deleted. Even testimony from Dr. Sharp about my workplace behavior and the rumors that had circulated through the office. But the worst part wasn't the evidence of my relationship with Andre. It was the evidence of my neglect as a mother and wife. Matt had documented everything. The nights I'd ignored Sophie's homework to text on my phone, the family dinners I'd spent scrolling through social media, the school events I'd missed because I was meeting Andre. He'd even included Sophie's drawings from school, family portraits where I was consistently absent or turned away, my face hidden behind a phone. All rise. Judge Patricia Morrison entered the courtroom like a force of nature. She was older, probably in her 60s, with silver hair and eyes that had seen every variation of human failure. As she reviewed our case file, I found myself hoping for sympathy, for understanding from one woman to another. I didn't get it. Mrs. Vane, she said, looking directly at me, I've reviewed the evidence presented by both parties. Do you dispute the facts as laid out by your husband's counsel? My lawyer nudged me to stand. Your Honor, My client admits to meeting with an old friend but maintains that the relationship was not physical in nature. I didn't ask about the physical nature of the relationship, Judge Morrison interrupted. I asked if she disputes the facts. The lying, the deception, the neglect of parental duties while pursuing this relationship. I opened my mouth to explain, to justify, to make her understand how lonely I'd been, how invisible I'd felt in my own marriage. But the words died in my throat because I realized she was right. The facts were the facts. No, Your Honor, I don't dispute them. Very well. Mr. Vane, you're seeking primary custody of the minor child, Sophie Vane, age 8? Matt stood. Yes, Your Honor. On what grounds? His lawyer stepped forward. Emotional neglect, Your Honor. Mrs. Vane's extramarital relationship created an unstable home environment. She repeatedly lied to the child about her whereabouts, ignored the child's emotional needs while pursuing this relationship, and created a situation where the child felt responsible for her parents' marital problems. I wanted to object, to argue that I loved Sophie, that everything I'd done was because I was trying to find myself again. But then I remembered Sophie's drawing, the family portrait where I wasn't even looking at her, where my attention was focused on something outside the frame. Mrs. Vane, do you wish to contest the custody arrangement? I looked at Matt, really looked at him for the first time in months. He wasn't angry or vindictive. He was just tired. Tired of fighting for a marriage I'd already abandoned. Tired of protecting a daughter from a mother who'd stopped seeing her. No, Your Honor. The judge nodded and began outlining the terms. Primary custody to Matt. Supervised visitation for me until I completed counseling. Division of assets that was fair but firm. I'd keep the house but lose most of our savings. Child support that would stretch my dental receptionist salary to its limits. Furthermore, Judge Morrison continued, Mrs. Vane will have no overnight visits with the minor child until she can demonstrate through therapeutic evaluation that she's addressed the behavioral patterns that led to this situation. It was over. 8 years of marriage, dissolved in less than an hour. As we gathered our papers and prepared to leave, I caught Matt's arm in the hallway. Matt, please, can we talk? Can we try to work something out for Sophie's sake? He looked at me with those same tired eyes, but there was something else there now. Not anger, not hatred, but a kind of sad finality. Leo, Sophie is going to be fine. She's resilient, and she's got a lot of people who love her. Helen adores her. Carla and Paul treat her like their own, and I'm going to make sure she knows every day that she's the most important thing in my world. She's important to me, too. I know she is, but she needs to be the most important thing. Not second to your phone, not second to your need for validation, not second to whatever crisis is happening in your head that week. He wasn't being cruel. Somehow, that made it worse. What about us? What about everything we built together? We didn't build it together, Leo. I built it while you looked for reasons why it wasn't enough. Helen appeared at his elbow, her face a mixture of triumph and pity. Matthew, we should go. Sophie will be getting out of school soon. As they walked away, I stood alone in the courthouse hallway, surrounded by other people's broken families, holding a manila folder full of papers that legally ended my marriage. My phone buzzed. For a wild moment, I thought it might be Matt, or maybe even Andre with some word of comfort. It was a text from Dr. Sharp. Leo, we need to discuss your employment status. Please come in tomorrow morning. I laughed, actually laughed, standing there in that sterile hallway. I was losing my husband, my daughter, and now probably my job, all because I'd wanted to feel wanted again. The worst part was that Andre had been right. It had gotten complicated. And when things got complicated, he'd disappeared, leaving me to face the consequences of our harmless coffee dates alone. I walked out of the courthouse into the afternoon sun, squinting against the brightness. Somewhere across town, Matt was picking up Sophie from school, probably taking her for ice cream, helping her with homework. being the parent she deserved, and I was going home to an empty house, with nothing but my phone for company, and no one left to text. I'd gotten exactly what I'd been looking for: attention, drama, proof that I could still make someone want me. I just hadn't considered the cost. As I sat in my car in the courthouse parking lot, I finally understood what Matt had been trying to tell me all those months when he'd come home tired from work, when he'd asked for just a few minutes of peace, when he'd tried to connect with me over dinner while I scrolled through my phone. He hadn't been ignoring me. He'd been trying to build something real while I'd been chasing something that felt good. The difference between those two things, I realized too late, was everything. I started the engine and drove home to my empty house, where the silence was finally complete and no one was left to blame but myself. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next story. Write in the comments from which city you are watching.